I still think Beyond kind of head into this as the favorite, though, just because of how dominant they were in Game 1. And also, I can't really say no to 1116 on Annie. I feel like he's been really good on the pick, and it also synergizes so well with basically any aggro jungler.
Electrocute on the Rengar.
Yeah, I like
should
that.
mean we'll be seeing a Duskblade or the likes of.
It's very Chad.
But you are going to have to fight over control of your camps again, because Kongyue, I'm sure he's not going to be scared of once again invading and looking for advantages that way. Looks like both junglers might be starting on the top side of the map.
Once again, Beyond off to that very slight lead by having those level 1 wards. Now, something a little interesting for mid lane is that Daystar does not have the DMAT. So I believe this was the patch where DMATs were nerfed, so that even, or sorry, the Shiv was nerfed, so that even with DMAT, you don't actually one-shot the wave. And if you don't one-shot the wave, the DMATs seem kind of pointless. Oh, a lot of damage on the carriers. Nice little trade there for Bliss, especially because they got a little bit of extra sustain. Definitely.
Very nice start to the game. It's going to force out at least a potion early from carriers on that Nautilus. And mid, this is another champ that Daystar has found quite a lot of success on.
Yep. How annoying is Annie's shield? I can't believe that thing procs first strike, by the way. I know he procced it with an auto there, but I can't believe it. You just E yourself, and you get first strike. Now, I believe when we saw Annie into LeBlanc last in the PCS, it was with Aries Scorch, so a lot of early game power. But maybe now, 116 feels like the first strike is the way to go instead. Looks like trades are going decently for him, and actually a lot of trades up in the top lane.
Yeah. Liv doing pretty well for himself, as is Lakai. Obviously, this matchup tends to favor the Renekton for the most part. Starts to become more Jack's favored as you get those items online. Divine Sundra being a big one.
Yep. At least in mid and bot, though, it is Bliss that have priority and therefore have options. We'll see what they end up doing. Well, actually, big trades in top lane.
Yeah, Lakai might just... Oh, okay. Liv hangs on to his flash. Pretty confident there.
Oh, no.
Okay. Lakai actually taking up tower
low
there.
Yeah, he's going to have to back. I wonder if Liv will chase him. Doesn't look like it. It's going to be a nice, respectful base.
Yeah. Looked like Lakai got the better of the matchup and then kind of threw it away with that attempted dive. I don't even know if it was an attempted dive, but certainly took up some tower shots. Put his health in a bad spot. And bot lane here for Team Bliss going fairly decently this time.
Yeah, this is looking a lot more competitive already. Although it's only 3 minutes into the game. I feel like it's much better signs from Team Bliss. Kongyue, he could look for something on this butt scuttle, but I think given them bot prio, it doesn't seem that good to me. I'm surprised that Beyond want to fight this.
Oh, Akia finds a nice knock up there, and it's first blood to Limas already. Kongyue getting caught out a little bit there as 116 flashes forward, will not find the stun, but it's going to be Limas who's getting very, very low, has the blue buff and the red buff available for himself, finds himself a second kill. Early 2 kills here found for Limas on the Xayah. Great signs for Team Bliss, and as you're saying, feels weird that Beyond tried to fight it.
Yeah, I am really surprised by how aggressively they tried to contest that. You've got a Zeri with Cull, you know, forced under tower. I mean, just look at this. You're walking in the river. Solo is Kha'Zix. Meanwhile, the mid and the bot are both collapsing, and it just feels like super greed from Kongyue. I'm not too sure what he expected here. Maybe that Annie could get the Prio, but it's quite hard to get Prio 1v1 against the LeBlanc, and you can see with all these Bliss members already here, the Zeri rotating so late. Really nice engage from Arkia. Yeah, nice follow-up as well. And that's a huge win for Bliss. You can see here, 116, he flashed in, but he stuns the Xayah who had that cleanse, and does live with just a sliver of HP. Obviously, huge win, and now they have to try and get more done with that. Why not? He's going to come to this top jungler, and he could find Kongyue. He's got a ward spotting him out, I believe. But since he's resetting, won't be able to look for him. He's got that Dirk as well, so it is just going to be, like you said, with the electrocute, a lot of damage. And I hope that with this, Bliss don't just leave it at 2 kills, and they at least try and get some objectives with it. Even if they can't force any dives, although it feels like dives could be possible, you know, especially with no flash on Betty.
Definitely. Heal available, but again, yeah, no flash. Feels pretty decent. Chance of a dive. Maybe you do want to get Rengar closer to 6 as Kongyue's headed bot side will be able to pick up his Gromp, although he's looking for a lane gank for the time being.
Wonder if he's just looking to counter, because it doesn't feel that possible, but I guess do need to put some sort of pressure on this wave that's pushing out. Especially with no flash on the Zeri. She is a little vulnerable.
No sums 2 on Lemus and the Xayah.
So
And Hook does land onto Arkia, and they see Kongyue now. Arkia has flash available, will have to use it there, but importantly keeps himself from going down, so no gold given over as well as pressure. It is just Kongyue.
Why could look mid here. There are no mercs for 116, so if he gets chained, oh, nice stun though. I think he'll be fine.
Chain hits onto Tibbers. Does have to commit the Tibbers though. And now in fairness, oftentimes Annie does just put down the Tibbers to help her clear waves out and find a recall, so now that could just be the angle. Kongyue though, invading Why Not's jungle, just going to find that scrying orb and head back towards the mid wave.
I'm not too sure what he's looking for here. I guess just wants Annie to be safe pushing out. So just going to be able to reset. But I think, you know, starting the game like this for Bliss is, well, it's not just a better look, but it is actually just really good for their comp. You're not really expecting LeBlanc and Rengar to be able to get involved in too many fights pre-6, and having a lead in those positions already is really good. And of course, 2-0 on Lemus on the Xayah. Now, it's still down CS to Betty. And you kind of feel like that was because the Xayah got chunked so low in that first skirmish, was forced to reset. Everything else, though, kind of going as expected. Kai definitely getting maybe a bit more than expected, though.
Yeah. But with level 6s now, it feels like Lived at any stage can go toe-to-toe against the Jax. Kai going for a recall here. He might lose a couple of minions. Renekton can push that wave reasonably quick. And recall's really across the map here for Beyond.
Yep, eyes on the Herald, really, spawning at 8 minutes. And I feel like this is one that should pretty comfortably go to Bliss. They have that Renekton in the top side, and they should be stronger pretty much everywhere else on the map. The question is, are Beyond going to kind of rage contest this, or are they going to try trade something on the other side of the map? Kongyue's recalling pretty late, so it suggests there might not even be a trade at all. He's not going to be in time for the drag. So if Bliss get this, they would just be getting everything they want in the early game.
Definitely. And where do you put it? I guess bot makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, bot or mid maybe. A
yeah,
lot of the
getting
time,
LeBlanc-ish static can also...
Yeah, I think also when you're against static champs, trying to take that or get damage on it early is really good. Because it ends up kind of stagnating, I guess, in the mid game. When you can't actually hit the tower anymore because they're just one-shots the wave. Now they are starting on the dragon. It's a little late. But I think with the amount of tempo invested onto the top side, it should go the way of the Beyond. So it feels like things are very much reversed for these first objectives here from our previous game. But it's a position that I think Bliss should be a lot more comfortable with than they were before. Still though, I don't think it's like Beyond are uncomfortable with this anyway. Obviously you've got the Betty win condition, and he's got himself a hyper carry, which you can always rely on.
Definitely is the case. And also feels like Lemus, for the side of Bliss, has pretty much the best champion to deal with a lot of the threat coming through from Beyond. And with those 2 early kills, Team Bliss certainly have an avenue in this game to pick up a win in the series. In fact, I almost would say you'd favour their team at the moment.
I think so,
to be able to pick up the win.
Does feel a bit like Betty versus Bliss at this point. Team is getting pretty aggro. There is Kongyue waiting in the wings. And I think Beyond should know the Why Not's around. This is likely to be a 3v3, and I think it's one that Bliss should win. Now, there is no level 6 on Alistair, but Nautilus does have his 6.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see how close he is. Daystar landing that chain will force out Tibbers yet again.
Some nice trades. Why not? He is looking for something bot.
Now, teleport is going to be unlocked here, and only Lived has it up. Well, 116 does as well, but for the top laners, it is Lived with that advantage. So in theory, could teleport to help if there were to be anything break out, but it is just going to be recalls coming through. Wonder how much gold Lemus has. Feels like he should have a fairly large amount. In fact, I wouldn't be even too surprised if he has the Kraken.
Yeah, he's a rich boy. Got a lot of gold. See what he picks up. Looks like it's not the Kraken quite yet. But he's got those tier 2 boots as well, so his very comfortable with where he's at.
Definitely.
LeBlanc is still pretty far from the Shiv. That is because she went for the Mercs nice and early, which I think is, you kind of have to versus the Annie. Does feel pretty hard to play without that extra tenacity. Some trades in the top lane that are favoring Lived. Picks up a plate for himself there.
Definitely. I mean, top lane and bot lane really feeling pretty good about themselves at the moment. Even the LeBlanc not being pressured all that much and having a fairly reasonable speed at achieving the static shift means when lane phase does end, LeBlanc should have it and should feel pretty comfortable in that side lane, getting pressure around the map. And why not actually in the area?
Yeah.
Lakai has just teleported. But with the wave pushing, okay, Counter-Strike comes out. Pretty decent trade from Lakai onto Lived. But certainly shouldn't be aware of the whereabouts of Rengar. In fact, Rengar comes through, does land the root, but nice leap strike, gets Lakai nice and safe behind his minions. It is a big chunk though, and so just committing that teleport and immediately getting chunked feels fairly terrible. Lived hasn't backed in a very long time too. Still sitting on that pickaxe, still sitting on that longsword. He's had that for a fair amount of time. See if he can, what he can pick up here. Should have the Iron Whip spike, maybe the Warhammer.
TP's back top.
Oh, that's just a full gorge. Yeah, that feels really, really nice now as the Renekton. More trades coming out mid. Fairly even, all things considered, because the tip is now being gone.
Ooh.
Much longer cooldown. Why not though? Ulting on, flashes forward, will not land that snare, and it's in fact Kongyue who's trying to turn it around. There's no flash now for this Rengar, and he will be found out. Why not? Going a little bit too deep there, is going to find himself being caught. Kongyue picking up that one on the Kazakhs.
That feels like a pretty big pickup. Kazakh's not a champ that functions very well from behind, and neither is Rengar. So getting that kill is really big. I think also, I'm not sure if I saw it right, but I think Kongyue might have gotten an extra 100 gold there from the first strike. Did seem like a lot of gold picked up, and so that's pretty nice. Oh, did the Herald expire?
I think so.
Okay, let's take a look at this. Nice trades out in the mid lane for both sides, really. It's pretty even, all things considered. And why not uses this as an opportunity to go? Now, Kongyue is in the area. This is a lot of ground to cover. Yeah.
He didn't go invisible. Well, he did go invisible, but just as he was seen as well.
Yeah, plus 105 on the first strike. How ridiculous is that? I mean, that's a huge amount of gold picked up. And more importantly, I think the Herald expiring. Because, you know, if you can manage to drop the Herald, that's a nice bit of gold for you, and also makes breaking the mid tower a lot easier in the mid game. Now, as soon as Zeri rotates there with that Shiv, that tower is not dropping again, because one Herald is not really it's not really enough, right? You need two Heralds to drop the mid tower normally. So it does feel like that's going to slow down the mid game a lot, which isn't necessarily bad for Bliss. They still scale pretty well, but once again, it gives Betty the time he needs to become the just 1v9 machine we know he is.
Definitely. And you do see, obviously, AD carries both completing their items. Lemus should be still ahead, has those 2 kills. Of course, already feeling pretty good about himself in the game, as we've said. It is Dragon started up by Team Bliss. Why not being on that nice and early? Kongyue, though, will probably spot it out here.
It is blue trinketed out.
Yep.
I think this, it's hard to fight. Again, you don't have the prior.
Oh, it's
looks
bot
like they're
lane.
going bot.
Featherstorm comes out, will dodge out of Nautilus's ultimate as well. Why not jumping over? Will find himself a return kill. Kongyue going down. That's the jungler dead. Now you almost certainly get this dragon, and Team Bliss once again finding some foothold in the game. Although the bot lane aren't so convinced that this is Team Bliss's, are coming up. Lived though in the area should all but confirm that Team Bliss will pick this up. Lakai headed down, but with that, it should be top laners now returning to their lane. Bliss picking up themselves their first dragon of the game. It's going to be the Hex Tech yet again for them.
Nice pickup, of course. I think question marks, really big question marks around what Kongyue is doing, because that's the second time that he's really disrespected the prior, walked in the river, and then been hard punished for it. He gets jumped on by the Rengar. The follow-up that comes out of LeBlanc did take him down. And maybe Kongyue is just not used to not having as much prior from the bot lane. Not too sure what it is, but he's getting way too greedy, and Bliss are punishing him for it. The gold difference still remains in Bliss's favor, but it's certainly not one-sided.
No.
Within touching distance. And one dragon apiece now. Herald is up and available. See who ends up looking for it. Feels like the Renekton might still be too strong on the top side at this point.
Yeah, definitely feels like that. Gore Drinker being completed means a lot more in a team fight than the Divine Sunderer. Although the Divine Sunderer, of course, can mean the 1v1 feels a bit better for Jax at the moment.
Betty is recalling, so I wonder if they are just going to now move him towards mid and start trying to contest these objectives. There is no TP on 1116, so if he does walk to bot, he'll probably have to give this one up. Water drop, there's lots of pings here from Beyond, so it seems like they want to start this up. I think if you're Bliss, maybe just let Lemus take the bot tower. We'll see what they end up doing. I mean, Lemus is so far away. I think if you're Bliss, just try and delay this as much as you can. Hit bot. Okay, instead they're going to bring Lemus up, but it feels too late. This is a 4v5.
It is.
Lakai has TP. Will he TP in?
Now, Rengar ulting, coming through, looking for Betty as the angle. Arkia as well, but he'll be hooked up. Arkia finds a headbutt, but not the pulverize. And it's why not getting absolutely obliterated. Kill goes over to 1116 on that Annie. And with Lakai teleporting in, it's a matter of time until that double kill comes through. Arkia going down. It's 2 kills for Annie. 1116 having the time of his life in that team fight. And again, it was just the power of that 4v5. The ability to bring in the Jax, and why not going a bit ahead of himself. Teamfight win for Beyond. Rift Herald picked up, and it should be the tower that follows.
Yeah, another nice swing that goes the way of Beyond. I hope we get a replay of it. I do think it was sort of questionable decision-making from Bliss, because I think that, okay, on one hand, it does make sense that you want to contest this, right? You're very strong, you've got this Renekton. But if you want to fight this, Xayah needed to be here a wave earlier. And then actual teamfight execution, I mean, why not? He goes in very early, can't find access to Betty. Ulti had timed out. And I'm not sure he did any damage in that fight. And this is a Rengar that if he does find the target, can almost kill them 100-0.
Yeah.
And so finding that little impact is disastrous. And you can see Bliss coaching staff there. Heartbroken.
Yeah, it is obviously the Rengar. He had the Serrated Dirk, he had the Duskblade. Getting onto Betty would almost certainly mean that Betty goes down, but wasn't able to. Ultimately, it feels like someone had to go in and get that started before Why Not could go in, but just didn't happen.
No, and I guess they didn't feel confident to make something happen because they were waiting for the Xayah to come up, right?
Yeah.
Feels like just a disconnect that if you do want to fight that, you bring Xayah away earlier, and if you don't, then you just commit Xayah to hitting the bot tower. Unfortunately, they don't really choose either. They do get punished for it. Why not? He could look for something again here.
Yeah, he is going to be on the hunt. Won't find anything. Does manage to get the flash out of Kyrgios on this Nautilus, and the knock-up found on Kongwei will force away that leap. And it's 116 getting very low. Lemus looking for another kill here. He's also looking for Kyrgios. Does find that one. Is not going to find 116. It's ultimately going to be Daystar who picks up that one, and Liv now looking forward. Flash out of Kongwei, and Betty will remain safe, but it is ultimately Bliss who pick up 2 there. Lakai, though, on the top side, has found himself an inner tower. Finding himself a lot of gold there while the team fight breaks out, but it is a 3-0 Xayah as well as a 2-0 LeBlanc.
I'm not even sure who that favors. I think it might be Bliss favor just because now that you've got that 2-item spike on the Xayah, it's really, really big. But so much gold given on top side doesn't feel great. Now the Annie ult, importantly, did not hit the Rengar here. I think fight also ended up very split, which I think was kind of poorly played from Beyond. Feels like there might have been a way to kite out together. Unfortunately, it went further down the river. And Renekton TPs very early. I'm not sure if Lakai has TP, but I like the discipline just to hold it. And just keep going top, because by the time you get to this fight, it looks pretty doomed. Yeah, it looks like he didn't have TP, so didn't even have to make the decision. But this is a really strong Xayah the next fight, and I think Bliss now, your win condition probably is to step up and just keep spamming these dragons, really. Because I think you don't want to let Betty just scale into this game. Well, Betty will be able to carry eventually. It's still a very long way away. Does not have the items that he needs. So just keep looking to fight, keep taking these 5v5 skirmishes. 5v5 team fights, I suppose.
Yep.
They should be good.
There is no flash or ult available for Lemus at the moment, but also there is no flash for 116. So as long as he doesn't position too aggressively, he should stay safe. It is going to be the second dragon now for Team Bliss as Lakai making some headway on pushing that top side. Kira's also shadowing him very close by in the jungle.
Feels like the best Beyond could really get there. I think without flash on Annie, it is pretty difficult to take that team fight. I think as well, you probably want to wait for Betty to hit 2 items before you look for anything. But I think this is starting to kind of get towards Bliss's favor, just in terms of, you know, the longer these games go, I'd say the more in the LCO's territory they become of kind of getting towards those late game team fights, whereas Beyond feels like late game really is just the Betty show, and prior to that,
Ooh, Daystar might have to use his Mimic here. In fact, he will. Not the longest of cooldowns, but certainly a nice cooldown to get away. I wonder how much first strike gold he just picked up. I didn't actually see.
Yeah, he's been getting quite a lot off that. Are they going to look for this bot tower? Okay, Betty backs and picks up his Navori, which is a very big pickup. I think Betty now is... He's online. I'm not sure if he's the 1v9 carry machine yet, but he is getting there. And you can see how healthy this mid tower is, especially with that Herald being wasted earlier on in the game. It's so easy for that Shiv Zeri to just keep it alive. Now, where will we look next? For Bliss, I think you want to break that tier 1. It should be pretty easy with how LeBlanc's going in the side lane. But getting mid priority is not the easiest, even with your Xayah being this strong, just because the wave just gets deleted. See, so much damage taken on the wave before the next one's even here, which gives Beyond a lot of freedom around mid. Maybe they could look for dives top. There is no Zhonya on the Annie. I think it's being worked on, but doesn't have it yet.
Oh, I don't think Why Not wants this. There are 3 members nearby this Annie. Kongyue looking to stop the Rengar, and in fact will. That's going to be Why Not. Losing his ult there on Rengar. Finds himself another avenue back here, though.
It is Bliss that have a lot of control around this topside river. I'm not sure if they want to be the ones starting up the Baron, but if they can find a pick, I think it's very easy for them to do it. And they have a lot of tools to make the picks. Now going to be moving, or at least attempting to move into that top side. It's not the easiest, because Beyond do have some very good pick tools, and maybe they're looking here. Damage onto
getting
Arkia.
Slowed up, will be hooked. He's going to pop that ult. Means he won't likely be going down, although the amount of CC that's come through, this man cannot move. Ignite follows, but he does have to commit that flash to get away. And with Alistair now, no ult, no flash. It should be more vision control established for Beyond, as they do make a headway into that top side. Daystar flashing forward, gets stunned up again, but he does manage to stay alive. He will lose his flash as well, however. Importantly though, they have the wave clear here on Xayah to thin the wave and not lose their tower. It is though Beyond turning their attention towards this Baron. They're not going to start it off though. Going to use this tempo to recall and get back on the map.
Yep. I think starting up the Baron versus LeBlanc would be pretty suicidal. Just a really good champ at stopping that. And oftentimes, we see the LeBlanc not finding a lot of value just in those raw team fights. But to Bliss's credit, they have made sure that LeBlanc does kind of find the angles, finds the poke that she needs before the fight actually unfolds. All things considered, though, it's pretty even still for both teams. It is a 2 dragon to 1 advantage for Bliss, but the goal...
Oh, Kongyue. Oh, Daystar not wanting any of that. It is just going to be a trade there of really just the ward. Makai, though, now starting to have some freedom in this lane as Arkia gets stunned up. He's going to get slowed. Tib is also used. He's going to commit his ult again. Why not, though? Looking for Betty. Finds a reasonable amount of damage and does make Betty pop the ult, but it's not without going down as Arkia headbutts 116 away. Does still go down and live now. A middle of 4. They're trying to find whatever they can. Lima's popping that Featherstorm on the back of the fight. It's not going to be enough. The story of last game happens again as Daystar and Limas left with it all to do as Beyond start to work on this Baron.
I wonder, are they just going to straight give it over? I feel like there might be potential for LeBlanc to poke around here, but looks like with that much threat, Daystar is just going to head towards the bot side. And a game that was so close for so long now is going to start to break open. A big lead for Beyond now picked up, have the Baron and have a lot of time to use it. Sizable gold lead there. And unfortunately, I think we will get a replay of that fight, but Daystar was on bot lane. I'm not sure if he TP'd in. We'll see how it starts, because I think Arkia being engaged on again, it's not the worst. He has the ulti back up. But I think the Rengar, once again, kind of found no value. Let's see. Initial engage on Arkia. It's looking fine. Rengar's got that flank this whole time. Daystar is bot. He TP's in. But the Rengar just goes in and there's no follow-up. I think needed to wait for the LeBlanc to be there. Or maybe for the Renekton to TP in as well. But ultimately just went a tad too early. And so went in and was just taken out immediately. And that's the thing with Rengar, right? It's very hit or miss. You either go in, you kill someone, or, well, you don't. And suddenly you don't add anything to the team fight. You don't add any utility, no CC. So just missed timing there from Why Not, costs them big. Now, there are still pretty big items on the side of Bliss. You know, you look at the likes of Limas, and he's very fed. They look for something again.
Gets caught up. He's getting stunned. He needs to get that heal off. He is, but it's not really that much as Daystar's trying to find some poke in the background as Lakai also finds himself at a flank. It's Arkia, though, in the middle of 3, likely to go down. Lived gets hooked up. Lakai being looked at, though, as Lemus. He does have the Featherstorm and the Flash and the Cleanse. He's going to use it. At least some of them as Lakai getting so low, but they aren't able to find it. It's Beyond again winning themselves a fight. They pick up 1, and it's likely to be the second dragon for them as well. It's just the angles over and over again, not favoring Bliss, although Daystar trying to find something on 116. Won't land the chain, though. Betty coming over. Does have ult available for him.
I think what's so problematic now as well is that Betty is level 15 and Rengar is level 12. So it's so hard now to assassinate his AD because he's just so fed. You can see Betty even higher level than Daystar. And normally LeBlanc is the kind of champ, especially with the Shiv build, that's just levels and miles ahead of everyone else. Why not? Maybe getting a bit desperate here. I don't think anything will be
hook
found.
Lands, but it's onto Arkia. He does go forward. Betty's going to have to flash away. Does not have ult available for him. Lemus picks up 1. Why not, though? Goes down to 116 on the backside as Arkia is also found by the combination of Betty and Kongyue at the end as well. Kongyue getting that reset, jumps forward, manages to secure the kill onto Lemus. It's Lived and Daystar. They're up against the side of BYG. Now, admittedly, a lot of death has happened, but not a whole lot of objectives have been taken, and this Baron is almost over.
Does feel that way. The tier 2s mid and bot haven't been broken, which was probably what Beyond were after. Now, still found themselves that gold lead. You can see there in the top right. A 4K Baron power play, but the towers do still remain. Now, I think Lemus and Daystar still remain in this game too. They're very, very strong, but the Rengar feels well and truly outscaled now. If you can't kill this Zeri, doesn't feel like there's much else for you to do. And with a BT picked up, it means that even a chunk onto her won't really matter. Oftentimes in the early game, if you can chunk an ADC to 50%, 40% in health, they won't really be able to teamfight from then on anyway. But with that BT picked up, not going to be an issue for Betty whatsoever. 3 items are here for Daystar. So this is where the LeBlanc really starts to come into its own. We've got a lot of poke, you've got a lot of split push pressure, and a lot of damage, but the problem is when these 3 items on LeBlanc come in after the BT picked up by Betty. Often feels like if you can get that poke before the ADC gets lifesteal, then you're really, really impactful. But if you get it too late, because either you don't pick up enough gold or the enemy AD ends up too accelerated, you quickly become useless. We'll see if he can find anything, though. Beyond, they're controlling this bot side, but no objectives up for 2 more minutes, and I would be surprised if anything happened. Maybe an engage will be found, but for the most part, I think this should just be slowly sieging this away. Maybe Bliss won't be happy to give this one up, though. Let's see.
Kai jumping forward with that counter-strike. This tower has been taken out and Liv now being looked at. Dominus is procced, but he's just caught out. Team Bliss not in the close enough vicinity to be able to follow up on his movements forward, really, as Lemus does walk up, but is able to use that double dagger to locate the side of BYG. And it is Daystar picking up this mid tower, which does help. But ultimately you feel like, what can you do with this? You'd really want to be able to try and get those dragons, but doesn't feel all that possible. Daystar, though, managing to get out here. Looks like Beyond were trying to look for him.
Didn't find him in time, though.
Does have Lich Bane now, so
yeah.
Can be a bit of a pest when it comes to any sort of sieging or even objective plays. But it is really that it almost feels like a 4v5 at this point. The Rengar is going to have such a hard time to find any value. Honestly, it almost feels like the only person you can try and look for is this Kha'Zix. But even then, Kha'Zix is just so slippery that it doesn't feel all that possible.
Okay, though, found again.
He is. He finds a 2-man pulverize. But even with that damage reduction, it's not going to be enough. He does just go down. Now, importantly, we'll be back alive for the time of this Baron spawn. But what do they lose in the meantime? At least as mid lane inner goes down. Why not? And Lived are looking for Lakai on the bot side. Carries flash forward. Will land their hook there. And Why Not's just taken out. Lemus uses that Featherstorm to dodge out of the Tibbers. And Lakai, though, he's flashing forward. Lemus is getting so low. And the Blade Caller leaves Lakai on 1. Daystar, though's looking to turn it around. Isn't going to be able to. And that's 4 found here for Beyond. Out of what looked like nothing. Only Lived remains. Importantly, though, no minion wave in the vicinity. Maybe they're able to hold on, but they should lose the Baron for this.
We'll see. Do they go towards that Baron, or are they just going to try break this? Looks like they're going to try break. Can they actually play for the end? I wouldn't think so. There's 20 seconds on Lemus, but I mean, double
Those
TP
teleports,
means they kind of want to, right?
They're definitely committing. They have 10 seconds on this Xayah, 20 on the LeBlanc. Why not does spawn now, but it's a 3v5. And these are the members with the gold. It's Daystar and Lemus with the gold, but luckily, at least for Bliss, there isn't going to be a game ending right now. Beyond, though, should have free will to be able to look towards this Baron.
If you're Bliss, though, maybe you fight right now.
They are baiting. Ooh. They do land the hook onto Liv, who pops the dominance, and they're looking now. 116 going to be forced to use that Zonya's Kongwei. Oh my god, why not finds the kill? But what's it for? They're managing to kill 1116 and Daystar and Lemus. They're trying to find the damage. Lakai, though, enters the defensive stance and can't take damage from auto attacks. It's only Lemus. It's Lemus and Why Not. He's going to get the recall off. It's a 3v2. But heroic effort there from Why Not to find that kill onto Kongwei. It still ultimately is, though, Beyond, who pick up that team fight win.
Does feel difficult at this point to pick up those team fight wins, right? Just when you're down this far in goal. But I do like that Bliss went for that. You know, they managed to find that window where Beyond haven't quite reset yet. Still have a lot of gold in their pockets, unspent. And they punish them. As Dragon has started up and there is no smite, but with this much damage coming through, I think it will drop before Why Not gets anywhere near it, and resets will come through. This is really good, I think. You know, not a lot of health, not a lot of power really left over from Beyond. Initial engage, I think Kongwei very nearly kills Why Not here, but Why Not with the Dustblade manages to get out. You'll notice in that fight as well that Betty was looked at by Daystar, but never really dropped below half HP, and the BT just makes it so difficult. I mean, this is a LeBlanc build not built around burst, but sustained DPS and is countered completely by the lifesteal. And you take a look at Betty's score, I mean, he's 4-0-13. Even when his team was somewhat falling behind in the early game, he never wavered, really.
Definitely not. Runan's now picked up for this Zeri, which feels very good.
Lifesteal.
Yeah. He has shield bow, I guess, makes sense. You're against quite a lot of burst, and especially as LeBlanc items come through, is able to start looking to burst you out. Full control over River, though, is afforded here to Beyond. Daystar trying to poke his head in and find some damage. Ultimately, not all that much. Is going for the Void Star, having picked up the Blighted Jewel, which means Death Cap going to be quite delayed. Lakai has found himself just a natural flank, not having to commit that teleport. He's got a really good position. Daystar does spot him out, and Arkia taking up the brunt of the damage. Lemus going to force that Feather Storm. He's going to find a lot of damage onto Lakai, but Arkia is going to be the first one to go down, or is he? Flashes forward, Betty does find it, uses that ult, and on the meantime, Why Not does go down, but massive Blade Caller just not got the damage, as it's only lived against all of Beyond, who will pick up the kill, and they charge towards that Nexus of Bliss to pick up their second win in our best of 5.
Yeah, they will just march to victory here. Very far ahead now, 23-8. And look at that damage in that last team fight there from Betty. He put up the numbers. Admittedly, Lemus wasn't too far behind. But at the end of the day, it is Beyond that are going to pick up game number 2 here. And now, you know, moving towards match point pretty early on. And I will say that it was a much better game from Bliss, especially the early game was a lot more competitive. I think it really just came down to just small mistakes, right?